Okay, we're running a little early. I hope I've got all my committee members here, but I'd like to call the order of the Public Safety Subcommittee on Appropriations. And we're going to start off with Department of Community Supervision. 18.2.3, we're going to reduce funds for personal services, and you'll see this time and time again in this this presentation. And all this is last year we had some new positions. When they're not filled on July 1st, very obviously we're not going to have a salary for the whole year, so whatever months it takes for them to get hired, we take that money back. So we're going to recover $100,000 in that item. Moving on to the Department of Corrections. Under Food and Farm Operations, the Department of Corrections runs their own farm down in Reedsville. They provide almost exclusively all the food for 50,000 inmates in our penal system. Under 19.3.4, provide funds for food services across state facilities contracted with Georgia Correctional Industries due to rising food costs. There was nothing budgeted. We put in $2,445,000. That's one half of the request. They lost $4.8 million in fiscal year 25. 19.3.5, provide funds for the purchase of meat during processing equipment upgrades. Their meat processor quit last year. They had to buy meat patties outside while it was under renovation. That was $1,079,000. 19.3.6, provide funds for food and farm equipment and software upgrades. They can't grow the food or raise the livestock without the equipment. And for about the last 4 years, we tried to upgrade, and we haven't been able to fund it. So we put in $1,015,000 this year, buy a potato planter, 2 row planters, some hog traps, combine, nitrogen applicator, so that they can do their job and feed our inmates. Under 19.4.3, increase funds for the physical health contract for a per diem increase of $10,946,108. We're going to be able to take back $16,702 because we're paying them from March when it was appropriated through July. $19.4.7, increase funds for residential substance abuse treatment centers effective April 1st. There was nothing funded. We put $312,500. That's 1/4 of the request. The counselor salaries are 20% lower than the state average, and they have difficulty hiring people. This is a recommendation from Gateway, which is a consulting company that Department of Corrections hired to assist them in some of their endeavors. Moving down to offender management, 19.5.5, provide funds for rural local county jail reimbursement where more than 20% of jail capacity utilization is occupied by detainees unable to make bail on contraband or drone-related charges. They now have the capability to track these drones when they come in, so they track them and they call the local sheriff's department. They run them down, arrest them, and they put them in their local jails. And some of them sit there for a while, and they don't have, in some of these small counties, they don't have the ability to provide the food and substance that's required to maintain them. So we're going to put in $1,500,000 to fund them for the first 30 days that they're in the jail. Moving on to 19.7.3, increase funds for additional correctional officer positions, improve staff to offender ratios. They put in $4 million. We upped it to $9 million. The projection between hiring and promotion, there's a 6-month step and overtime costs. The actual need is 19.7 to fully fund. 19.7.5, provide funds for a pilot program at Autry State Prison to provide peer-led programming. This came out of a group that went to Texas and observed it, but we've got a lot of new programs and we didn't get enough information, so we didn't fund that. 19.7.12, increase funds for operations at Lee Arundel State Prison. They're shutting down the prison. They were going to leave 200 inmates there because they've got a packaging program warehouse there for the GCI kitchen and maintenance. So what we're going to do is leave 200 more there. So we don't have to pay for maintenance in the facility. We'll have 200 additional inmates to do the maintenance and upkeep and work in the kitchen. That's $3,879,000. 19.7.13, increased funds for rent at Arnell North Basic Correctional Officer Training Building. It was funded at $14,000 for the rent. That'll cover 1 month. We put in $219,236 to carry us through the year. Moving on to 19.7.14, increased funds for offender call monitoring contract due to an increase in usage. We have 2 court cases that have affected us this year. One is that they can call anybody they want. The courts have said that they used to be limited to their visitor list, which is typically family. Now the courts have said they can call anybody they want, so that we believe there's going to be a lot more calls. And the other thing is the courts have said that we can't charge them. We used to charge them a little bit of money for their phone calls and deduct it from their accounts. They said we can't do that anymore, so we have to pick up that. Its total comes to $764,000. 9.7.15, increased funds, or excuse me, I was wrong on 19.7.16, increased funds for contracted food services due to rising food and labor costs. It wasn't anything budgeted. We put $284,000 in there. It funds 1 quarter request by Aramark for the increase. As for the last 4 years, the cost for labor and food's up 8.4%. 19.7.17, increased funds for central repair funds for capital projects. There wasn't anything in the budget. We put $725,992 in there. This replaces funds for the emergency repairs they made of meat facility repairs. They had to use money out of the central repair to do that, so we're going to replace that money. Defense Department, we had no changes. Governor's Office, the Georgia Emergency Management organization comes under the Governor's Office, and we're going to give them $500,000 for one-time funds for local emergency management agencies for what they had to utilize during Hurricane Helene that they're not getting any federal or state money for. Georgia Bureau of Investigation, regional investigative offices, 30.4.4, reduced funds for personal services based on actual start dates. This is another true-up. We're going to take back $203,000. 30.4.5, eliminate funds for one-time connectivity to the statewide gang database management system. The budget said we were going to take back $800,000. They say they really have to have that, so we zeroed it out and going to give them that $1 million they asked for. Under Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, 30.5.4, utilize existing funds. We had a savings of $133,000 on rent, and we're going to add $301,000 to it, so that we'll be able to fund their grant system and make it compatible with Georgia at Work. Uh, 30.5.6, provide funds for 8 child advocacy centers and 19 satellite office locations that meet minimum standards to provide specialized services not currently state funded. Nothing in the budget. We added $185,000. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council Family Violence Center, 30.7.2, provide one-time funds to domestic violence shelters and sexual assault centers for operational and facility needs. These things have been funded for many years through federal grants, and the federal grants have pretty much been cut off. So we put $4,525,000 there. That funds 47 domestic violence shelters, 34 sexual assault centers at $50,000 each, and 19 satellite sexual assault centers at $25,000 each. Juvenile Justice, Department of Juvenile Justice has no changes. The Law Department, 33.1.3, reduced funds for personal services based on the actual start date of new positions. This is a true-up. We meant to recover $93,000, and we only recovered 43,000 because we had to give them $50,000 for, they didn't think they needed to represent the JQC in a case, and it was determined that they did, and it was $50,000, so we reimbursed that. Pardons and paroles, we have none. Department of Public Safety, the actual Department of Public Safety, we don't have anything. Some of their satellite that are attached to them for administrative purposes, the Georgia Firefighters Standards and Training Council, 39.8.3 increased funds for startup costs for one safety and compliance specialist. This is just the startup cost. We put in $60,000. They're gonna add one person in Atlanta, which means this is the last. We've been doing this for a couple of years. This is the last one that'll give us statewide coverage now when we hire him next year to drive the car. But this means that they'll be able to inspect every fire station in the state every year, which is something relatively new.